Good morning, sixth graders. It is Mr. Stoffer,
Mr. Gilbert.
And Miss Trousseau.
and we're here for our second week of online classes. So this week, as you know, we're going to be taking those rough drafts that you worked on last week and making some revisions to make your writing as good as it can be. So we're going to be focusing in our mini lesson today on syntax and on using transition words to improve the flow of our writing. So syntax is a way of describing the way a sentence is structured, and we already have some vocabulary words we've learned together that help us with that. So we know about sentence fragments. Those are sentences that express incomplete ideas, not a complete thought. Then we have run-on sentences. Those are sentences that express way too many ideas that need to be simplified. And lastly, we have complete sentences. Those are sentences that express one main idea clearly and concisely. So as you start to do your revisions today on your rough drafts, the first thing we want to ask you to do is to look at the sentences you've already written and make sure that if you have any fragments or run-ons, that you are making the edits necessary to turn those into complete thoughts. So let's look at some examples to help us understand how to do that. So we know that when we're revising a sentence, there's three main steps we're going to go through. The first thing we're going to do is read the sentence, and we're going to ask ourselves, is this one complete idea, or is it an incomplete idea, a sentence fragment, or is it too many ideas, a run-on sentence? If it's one of those last two, we're going to need to make some edits to make sure that it ends up being a complete thought. So let's look at this sample sentence I've written right here. TJ in trouble for robbing the Barnett's store. Well, when I read that, I hear to myself that there seems to be a verb missing here to connect the subject of the sentence, TJ, to what has happened, robbing the Barnett's store. So when I think if I was going to put a blank right in here where my cursor is, TJ blank in trouble, I think I would use the word gets. So I'm going to put a little arrow there. I'm going to say TJ gets in trouble for robbing the Barnett's store. Now I hear that as one complete idea, right? I have a word here that's connecting TJ to the robbery. So now that it's a complete sentence, I can move on to step two, which is to look for my punctuation in the sentence. So let's read through and look for any spots that we might need to add punctuation. TJ gets in trouble for robbing the Barnett's store. All right, I see two things I need to add here. First, this word, Barnett's, that's the name of the family, right? And the Barnetts own the store. So I think to myself, what piece of punctuation do I use to show ownership? Well, I know that that's an apostrophe. And because this word is referring to more than one Barnett, Jim Lee and his wife, I know that the apostrophe will come at the end of the word, after the S. Then at the end of the sentence, now that it's a complete idea, as always, I need to add my punctuation to the ending. I'll just put a period here because this isn't a question or an exclamation. Now I've done steps 1 and 2. Let me move on to step 3. I need to look for anywhere that needs to be capitalized. Well, the name TJ, as I see it written in the book, both letters are capitalized, so I'm going to underline that. That would be T and a capital J. TJ gets in trouble for robbing the Barnetts. I know that that is also a name, so I'm going to capitalize that B, the Barnett store. So just by making those few simple edits, I made a sentence fragment into a complete sentence, and I made sure all the grammar in my sentence made sense. Once again, I start with step 1. Is it a complete sentence? Let's read it together. RW and Melvin beat him up, so TJ goes to the Logans for help, and they walk him back to his house, but the Wallaces show up. My brain just exploded from overload of ideas. There are too many ideas in this sentence. And I know if a sentence has too many ideas, that means it is a run-on. So let me read back through and find a place where I can split these ideas up so that they can still flow together, but in a way that doesn't become confusing for me as a reader. Let's read back through. RW and Melvin beat him up, so TJ goes to the Logans for help. Okay, those two clauses make sense together, right? Because they beat him up, he goes to the logos for help. Now I see this word and. That's connecting these two clauses with another two clauses, and I think that's where things start to get sticky. So I'm going to cross that word and out, and I'm going to replace it with a period. Let me read through now and see if it makes sense. RW and Melvin beat him up, so TJ goes to the Logans for help. They walk him back to his house, but the Wallaces show up. Do you hear how now, just by taking out that one word, I've kept all the ideas that are in these sentences, but they stand on their own, so it's easier to understand. And once again, as I did before with step 2, I look for where I need to add punctuation here. I already added punctuation to the first sentence, so I'm going to add punctuation to my second sentence as well. That leaves me for step 3. Well, there's a lot of names in this sentence, so let's pick them out as we go. RW, that's going to need to be capitalized. Melvin's a name, that's going to need to be capitalized. Beat him up, so TJ, just like it was before, needs to be capitalized. Goes to the Logans, that's going to need to be capitalized for help. Now they, that's not a specific name, it's a pronoun, but it is the start of our second sentence now, so that's going to need to be capitalized as well. They walk him back to his house, but the Wallaces, once again, that's a name there, that's going to need to be capitalized. All right, so by going through this series of 3 steps, I've made my run-on sentence with way too many ideas a lot easier for my reader to understand. Let's look at an example of a sentence that already looks a-okay. Let's go through the steps again. Is it a complete sentence? When the Wallaces threaten to kill TJ, Papa sets the cotton on fire to save him. Those two clauses go together, they make sense, it's easy for my reader to follow. So it is a complete sentence. Is it punctuated properly? Well, I see that there's a comma to separate this first clause from the second, and I see there's a period at the end. Looks good to me. Capitalization, the word at the start of the sentence is capitalized. My names, Wallace's, TJ, and Papa are all capitalized. Bingo, all 3 steps are taken care of in this sentence. So if you can go through your own rough draft and do this series of 3 steps with each sentence, by the end, you're going to have a perfectly edited essay.
The next thing that you want to think about when making some revisions to your essay is you want to make sure that it flows nicely from one idea to the next, and we call that transition words, or making transitions in your essay. And so what we have here on the slide, as you can see, are some examples of how to incorporate transition words into your essay. So there are different options for when you're showing that 2 things are alike or the same, when 2 things are different, if you want to add information, to show time. So you might be talking about before at the beginning of the book, or maybe something at the end, and you want to talk about what happened first or next. To conclude is what you're going to use in the last paragraph of your essay. And then also, if you're showing an order, you want to make sure that you're making each thing clear so that your ideas have an order to them. So you want to make sure that each paragraph has one of these transition phrases in it to make sure that it flows from beginning to end and that your reader has a better understanding of your ideas.
Ms. Chen-Charuso, if I wanted to find these transition words while I'm writing so I know which words I can use, where would I go to look for these?
So this is a PDF document and it is in the Google Classroom. You're going to make sure that you can open this up and have it next to you at all times to help you when you're making your edits. It's not going to be found in your draft document. I also want to make sure that you understand that these are suggestions, and you want to make sure that you read your essay out loud to yourself so that you can hear how it sounds, because these are just suggestions and you might have some great ideas yourself that make more sense. So again, your introduction should sound like it's introducing and giving new information to the reader. The body paragraphs should be clear around whether or not you're talking about similarities and differences, or you're introducing parts of your essay. And then your conclusion needs to sound like an ending. So you need to make sure that the reader knows that you're wrapping up all of your ideas and that you're finished with your thoughts.
And finally, here is a quick overview for this week. If you're watching this video on the day that it's been posted, it is Monday, April 13th. Your only expectation for Monday is to watch this video and to start your revision process in your Google Doc for your Roth MC essay. Tuesday, the only expectation you're going to have is to review grammar for capitalization, punctuation, and spelling. On Wednesday, you're going to review any teacher feedback and make any necessary edits or changes that are suggested by any of your ELA teachers. And you're actually going to have another opportunity to do that on Thursday as well. Friday, if you've done each little piece of advice suggested by your ELA teachers, you should be pretty ready to make a final review of your essay and submit when you're done. Finally, if you have any questions at all this week, maybe something wasn't as clear in this video, please reach out to any one of us by email, by Google Hangout, and we can set up a time to talk one-on-one or even just give you a quick answer on email or on Google Hangouts. That's it. Good luck this week. Can't wait to see you on Friday.